pointed teeth. I mean, they're all like little needles, and they all point backwards towards the throat, and there's one row on the lower jaw and a double row on the upper jaw. So it means once this snake has actually got a hold of prey, there's simply no way it's letting go, and then it wraps coils of the body around the animal and then will squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. And of course, every time the animal breathes out, the snake will just clench a little bit more, and every time it breathes out, the snake clenches more and more and more and more and more until there's either no lung space left and the animal suffocates, or even potentially bursting the internal organs of its prey. And then, as you can probably see right here, the snake will then swallow its meal in one mouthful because snakes are unable to chew their food. And of course, despite the fact that the head is so small, the anaconda can almost dislocate its entire jaw and walk its head across its food. I mean, anacondas will feed on a wide range of prey. In fact, they will feed on fish, lizards, frogs, baby crocodiles, but also large water birds, baby to adult capybara, and even deer. And of course, quite often when people go out looking for anacondas, if there's a whole cluster of them together, usually a lot of them are quite small, and because the males are a lot smaller than the females, because if there's a whole cluster of them together, that's called a breeding ball, where the males will follow the scent of a female and gather around her and basically fight each other to basically decide who has the right to breed with her. And another thing about anacondas is that unlike other snakes that lay eggs, anacondas, like the green anaconda, will actually give birth to live young. So they don't lay eggs, they actually give birth to live young, which is absolutely amazing for a snake. And of course, I've actually helped a friend who's recently become a vet. I've actually helped him handle an anaconda once before, and one of the anaconda's best ways of defending itself is to release a whole bunch of sticky white paste out of its rear end, and it smells absolutely horrendous, because when my friend Dylan and I were actually handling the anacondas, that stuff got all over our shirts, and we just had to throw them away because there was absolutely no way we were getting rid of it. And I'm going to tell you now, that was absolutely foul smelling, and it made my eyes water. It was worse than onion juice in your eyes, honestly. And of course, as you can see here, there is you can actually handle an anaconda in the wild, and of course the whole trick is to get behind the head, because once you have control of the head, you've got control of the snake. Of course, it takes a firm grip to restrain an anaconda, but as you can see here, these snakes are tough enough to constrict crocodiles to death. So it won't hurt the snake even a little, but you kind of get wound into a serpent straitjacket. But also, well, one reason why this snake is my favourite of all snakes is because it's also probably the most legendary snake in the world. And two reasons for that are, like, J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, I think she actually based the basilisk, the beast of Salazar Slytherin, on the green anaconda. I mean, granted, the green anaconda can't kill you by looking you straight in the eye or using its venomous fangs, because it doesn't use venom, but still, it's the biggest snake around. But also, there's a tribe of people in the jungles of Colombia in South America that actually have a very unique relationship with the green anaconda. because they believe that the anaconda is their reincarnated ancestors, and they don't hurt the anacondas because they treat them as like, because they believe them to be their reincarnated ancestors, and so they treat them like almost godlike. But also, to handle an anaconda is like the big initiation ritual in that tribe. So it just shows that with a bit of mutual respect and understanding, people can live with animals that we consider to be dangerous, but anacondas are of no danger to human beings. I mean, it's very unlikely that a fully grown female would be able to swallow me, but she could probably choke the life out of me, and even though it's not a venomous snake, a bite from one would be extremely painful. And this is their range. In fact, around here in Colombia is where the tribe I mentioned live that have that unique relationship with the green anaconda. Now, the next predator is the largest ranging land carnivore in all of the Americas and the only big cat to live right in the south. It is the puma. Now, the puma goes by many different names. It goes by the puma, cougar, the mountain lion, the panther, or quite often mountain screamer. And of course, the puma is not typically classed among the big cats, such as lions and tigers, because it can't roar. So it quite often vocalises using low-pitched hisses, purrs and growls. But don't expect those cats to sound like your friendly house cat, because where they go, as I said, they're also known as mountain screamer because they're quite well known for their screams. But the puma is found throughout North, Central and South America, but these pumas are found in the Andes, which is the longest mountain range. And a puma, or a male puma, is about the same size and weight as a fully grown man, but we would still be no match for them in a fight. Like all cats, they're solitary, with the exceptions of mothers and cubs. A female will usually have like 3 or 4 or even 5 cubs, and she'll look after them for about 3 years until they're ready to fend for themselves. Of course, quite often, males will tolerate having a female or 2 in their own territory, but of course, another male would not be welcome in his territory. Because the puma is the top predator of the Andes. They're a vital part of the mountain ecosystem, but for many years their behaviour was little studied. But until about recently, scientists were quite sure they knew what the pumas did during the day. They sleep. But what a puma does at night was a completely different story. Of course, another thing that was always believed for many years about pumas is that if 2 pumas that did not know each other that well met, it would quite often end in violence. But recent research has actually indicated that in the Andes, puma meetings like that do not end violently. Quite often, they will either sit together or even play together, and quite often feed together, which is absolutely gone over the top of many biologists. And of course, pumas are found, as I said, they're found throughout North, Central and South America, but of course these ones are found in the Andes. And the best place to see them in the Andes, in the wild, is the Torres del Paine National Park in Patagonia at the southern tip of South America. And of course, one of the reasons pumas have been doing so well in the Andes is down to their food of choice. It is this, guanajo. Now, guanajo are relatives of the camel, and of course they are the continent's most challenging prey. Because fully grown adults can stand over 2 meters tall, be 3 times the weight of an adult puma, and it could deliver a kick that could be fatal, but most importantly, they are constantly alert, almost impossible to catch during the day, because if they see a puma, they quite often give a loud whinnying call, and that sets the whole herd on alert. But at night time, the tables are turned, because the guanajo's eyesight at night is a little better than our own. Although they have a very, very keen sense of smell and hearing, they don't have very good night vision, and that's when they're most vulnerable. What the puma has to do is it has to get to within no more than 5 meters of a guanajo, and then it will charge forward and then jump on the guanajo's back. It has to tackle it to the ground, and then the puma will have to go for the throat and suffocate its prey. But unfortunately, only about 1 in 10 puma hunts end in success. And another thing is that, once a puma's made a kill, it can't possibly eat an animal of that size in one go. So what they do is, quite often after they've eaten their fill, the puma will cover the carcass underneath a lot of brush, and then it will come back between 2 or 3 evenings and eat it. Another thing about pumas is that in the Andes, around the Torres del Paine National Park, nighttime is usually the best time to see pumas, because that's when they get up and go out looking for dinner. Because you quite often see them wandering along the hills, valleys, or even along the roads. And another thing about pumas is their eyesight, because pumas have a very well-developed sense of smell and hearing, but their eyesight is about 6 times more powerful than ours, especially at night, and that's what allows them the advantage over the guanajo. But also, pumas have, like all members of the cat family, pumas have a layer of cells at the back of their eyes called the tapetum lucida that enhances their night vision, and also it means that in torchlight or headlights, puma eyes glow bright green, which is absolutely mind-boggling. And of course, pumas have occasionally been known to be man-eaters. And of course, the only time that they're at their most dangerous is when they're either being territorial, are protecting cubs, or more importantly, if they haven't eaten for more than several days. And of course, if it wanted to, a puma is more than capable of killing a fully grown man. Of course, historically in the Andes, pumas were persecuted almost to extinction, mainly by sheep farmers who were worried for their livestock. But people in the herders in the Andes have changed, because they've realised that just killing pumas did not solve the problem, because all it did was mean that as soon as one puma was killed, another would take its place, and that just caused even more problems. So instead of killing pumas, they decided to use man's best friend, dogs. Because what they do is they actually they have sheepdogs that that as puppies they raise among the flocks, so they get used to the flock, and then they take the dogs to the flock that they're meant to be protecting. And the pumas won't attack sheep while the dogs are around, because the dogs will quite often just be barking, and that will scare the pumas away. And so people are learning to coexist with pumas in the Andes, which I think is absolutely essential to our relationship with the natural world. But even so, pumas can be dangerous, especially when they've not eaten for several days. And if it wanted to, a puma's more than capable of killing a fully grown man. but it's always important